From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on March 3rd, 2025 from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. On this episode of The Lede, we preview the 8th week of the legislative session and what's poised to move. We have an in-depth section from the latest involving the $1.8 billion Boondoggle accounting error involving the state treasurer, and I catch you up with House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Bruce Bannister as the House is less than a week away from debating its massive spending bill. But you can also debate with us, 803-563-7169. Take a listen to that voicemail box. Tell us what you think of that greeting. If we should keep it, if you like it, what do you think? If you haven't called, now's your chance to find out what is the mystery voicemail box greeting. 803-563-7169. On tap this week at the State House, like we said, it is week 8 that kicks off on Tuesday. We'll have highlights for you in a moment. Up in Congress, they are back in session as well. And the federal government runs out of money on March 14th. That's what they're talking about when they talk about the Ides of March.
Interesting.
We love deadlines around here. On the economic calendar, the Fed's Beige Book drops on Wednesday if you want some light economic reading. And we get February unemployment numbers on Friday. Data that you can use. Now let's look at the State House, where there have been many peaceful protests over the past few weeks, whether it's solidarity for Ukraine or backlash to legally questionable cuts made to the federal government, among others. Now this weekend, I saw on Twitter that some 24 Patriot Front members in hats, sunglasses, and face coverings stood out front of the State House under a banner, American Spirit, European Blood. So just a little protest of note for you there. Let's look at what's happening this week at the State House, where in the Senate, they will begin debate on a wide-reaching and complex bill dealing with tort reform. Yes, tort reform. Everything you've been hearing about it, well, it's about to play out on the Senate floor this week. Bill S-244, that's right. And part of this debate is being fueled by liquor liability requirements for bars and restaurants across the state that have led to ever-increasing insurance premiums from fewer providers. So some real-life consequences to some actions happening right now that will be watched playing out. Now, this bill has broad impacts for multiple areas, and the debate will be extensive. We're talking this week, next week, possibly 3 weeks. We'll see. So we'll bring you those updates when we have them and break it down for you, everything that's going on with tort reform. People really love tort reform. I love that. The House has several bills from Judiciary now on its calendar to work through, and debate is expected on the Constitutional Convention Bill H. 3558. State Supreme Court Chief Justice John Kittredge will address a joint assembly of lawmakers in the House afternoon on Wednesday. Kittredge will speak following the annual address from the National Commander of the American Legion. Outside the chambers and in committee this week on Tuesday, a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee will take up DUI bills and a Concealed Weapons Permit Program bill. The Educator Assistance Act, H. 3196, will be before a Senate Education Subcommittee on Wednesday, and the House-approved Energy Bill, H. 3309, will be before a Judiciary Subcommittee that morning as well, when S-54, the Medical Informed Consent Act, will be before a Medical Affairs Subcommittee. So a lot of bills moving and grooving on Wednesday, and SCDOT will give its State of the DOT report on Wednesday morning, so we'll hear from Secretary Justin Powell. Some meetings of note over in the House. On Tuesday morning, there is a Judiciary Subcommittee meeting on the Restrictive Abortion Bill H. 3457. There is a full Judiciary Committee hearing on Tuesday, which includes the Hands-Free and Distracted Driving Bill H. 3276. Will it move this week? Maybe. Tuesday afternoon, the entire House Education Committee will take up the broadly written Anti-DEI Bill H. 3927. And presidents from CFC and Clemson will be before an education subcommittee Wednesday morning, so you might see them floating around town. But let's go to our main story.
Okay.
No, didn't know you're there.
Okay.
You guys always show up. State Treasurer Curtis Loftis was before the Senate Finance Constitutional Subcommittee as the panel continued its look into the $1.8 billion accounting discrepancy Boondoggle caper et al. The hearing came after Loftis was out of town and his chief of staff testified before the group. Thursday's hearing took place hours after a report came out from the Treasurer's office. Here is Treasurer Loftis summarizing that report but also having a tough time directly answering Subcommittee Chairman Larry Grooms.
But I have some good news. Proviso 9319 called for the hiring of a forensic accounting firm to do an in-depth forensic accounting review of all the cash and investments held by the state treasury. Our agency passed with flying colors. The report confirms that the STO cash and investment balances were properly accounted for. They're exactly what we expected and what we wanted. There's no mention of the STO lacking policies or safeguarding procedures, no mention of issues with STO documentation or entries, no mentions of issues of STO staffing or competency. This is a comprehensive 10-year audit. It was the focus of this whole exercise, and we passed with flying colors. We're proud to confirm that there is no mystery bank account. There never was. There's no missing money, no stolen money. Fund 993 was principally appropriations, not cash. We accept the Alex Partners report and are committed to implementing the recommendations it put forth and being a part of the solution. As you know, Alex Partners only had one recommendation solely attributable to the STO, and that was to report cash and investments by fund. We're more than happy to do that. We did it manually in 2024, and we've asked 10 months ago for a report from SCEAS that will allow us to do that in an electronic manner. We're committed to working with independent compliance consultants, whoever they choose, in making sure that all of the recommendations are followed. Despite all previous claims, this is an error primarily involving appropriation. The state's banker manages state's cash and investments. We do not manage appropriations.
Mr. Treasurer, I think
of course, Fund 993 was populated with $1.6 billion of appropriations. So thank you for letting me share that good news.
Well, that wasn't the question.
Well, I know the question, but
did you do?
I would like just a basic amount of courtesy, if you don't mind. Yeah, Fund 305093 has no money in it. It can't have money because funds don't hold money. Bank accounts hold money. So when we're talking about what that fund represents. And I stand by everything I said because the official books and records of the state of South Carolina, as maintained by the state and for use by our vendors, our bondholders, by federal government and everybody else, said that that money was represented in that fund. The Comptroller General sent me a letter saying that, and he said that the state auditor and the outside audit firm also agreed that it was cash, and they wanted me to move it to the general fund, which I did not do.
Mr. Treasurer, again, did you do anything wrong?
What kind of question is that? I've been in office 15 years, and this is an 8-year-old. Ask me something specifically.
That's a valid question. Did you do anything wrong?
I don't.
If you don't, if
well, okay, let's just go through it. The appropriations were placed in the account by the written orders of the state's accountant. Do you have that email? If not, I'd be more than happy to show it to you.
Did you do anything wrong?
I don't know how to answer that account. I'm sorry.
The hearing started with a video compilation of statements from previous appearances before the subcommittee, with Loftis saying there was money in the fund and interest was accruing on it and that some of that money had been spent. You know what I'm talking about? You guys have heard it before on this podcast.
Yes.
The meeting got contentious when Sean Eubanks, an attorney for the treasurer, refused to go under oath and instead, under threat of removal, was permitted only to advise the treasurer and not speak for him. The meeting continued with members of the subcommittee once again trying to nail down basic definitions, timelines, and understandings of the situation, including the legitimacy of prior statements that Loftis made under oath. Loftis was adamant that nothing improper occurred on his end, putting the bulk of the blame on the Comptroller General's office. Loftis says the $1.8 billion he called real last year, that earned interest was always represented on the books properly, saying the balance on the books didn't change. However, what's at the center of this is that money wasn't properly accounted for, and that is what senators have repeatedly tried to attack to the point where an hour into this 2.5-hour hearing, Loftis was packing up like he was ready to leave out of frustration.
But do you agree that $1.8 billion is an error?
You mean, are we talking about now or?
Well, you brought it up.
I mean, I'm confused. You
I can tell.
Then or now, or whatever. You can make fun of me, Senator. That's
I'm not
okay.
making fun of you.
That's okay. You trash me from one end of this state to the other, and I don't like it. And I'm trying to be as honorable as I can, but you make it difficult. These are serious issues.
It shouldn't be difficult
These are serious
to be
issues.
honorable.
Well, then ask the question. Yeah. We're going to say a few more minutes and relieve it. So what else?
When you tell me under oath that it's difficult to be honorable, I'm telling you it's not difficult.
I'm not going to have.
honorable.
I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to be insulted like this. The
Those are
state
your
treasurer's
words.
office
Those
is a
are your
highly.
words,
The state
Senator,
treasurer's office
not
is a
my
highly
words.
functioning office.
Your
We do
words,
excellent
not
work.
mine, not
We do
mine.
excellent work. The problem is not in my books. The problem is at the Comptroller General's books, and you've given him a pass and tried to make me the Comptroller General, and I'm just tired of it. And there are real-world consequences to the taxpayers of this state. And the problem is there's no one to stand up.
I agree.
Yeah, and
There
we
are
are the
real
only state in
consequences.
the history of the world that would argue about arcane accounting entries and risk the state's credit.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
Because I believe multi-billion-dollar errors are really bad to have on our state's
Could
books
you say
and our
that one
state's
more
accounting
time? As if
and
everybody
within
in
our
this
state
room.
treasury.
Could you say that one more time? It wasn't in the state treasury.
Multi-billion-dollar errors
It's not in the state
bad.
treasury's office.
And it's time to correct the multi-billion-dollar errors and
the
assure
Comptroller
they
General
don't
has
happen
the
again.
experience, yeah.
I also think it's bad to mislead the public, the General Assembly, and New York investors. I think that's bad. I think you would agree that that's bad. Do you agree that that's bad?
I think the misinformation from this committee is going to cost this state a tremendous amount.
Another point of contention came when Loftis incorrectly said that it was the subcommittee that wanted sensitive state financial data published last spring, something the Treasurer's Office was moving to publish had it not been for the Governor's Office and SLED intervening, as well as the Department of Administration, which was ready to take down the Treasurer's Office website should the data had been published, while the Attorney General's Office was waiting to act as well. You guys probably remember that kicked off a lot of this discussion last year. Here's that back and forth with Senators Stephen Goldfinch, Grooms, and Loftis.
This committee did not instruct you to publish that data. This committee specifically said not to publish that data.
If this committee could instruct you to do something, it would be to resign your position as treasurer of the state of South Carolina. That's what
It's not going to happen because I'm not going to let you get your fingers on $54 billion. It's my job. I swore an oath. I'm going to protect this money, and I know what Senate Finance would do with this money. Y'all been chasing me for 15 years, and I'm not going to let it happen. I stop this stuff on a regular basis.
Just
and
like you did
I've been after
before.
the Comptroller General and the State Auditor to have better records and books for 15 years. I've been fighting this battle. When y'all voted against me when we exposed $277 million of hidden fees going to New York every year, you voted against me on that. Y'all turned me over to the SEC, to SLED, to the OIG about these things. Every time I come up and report fraud, waste, and abuse, I get punished. This is just more of the punishment. I'm not surprised. What I am surprised is the level of sophomoric finger pointing. This is serious business. The
Absolutely,
state's ability
Mr. Treasurer.
to borrow money, the
It
state's
is very
ability to recruit,
serious.
this serious business. And we're talking about
So
an
serious-
accounting entry
so serious
in a
that
contrived area.
So serious that you sent a letter to this subcommittee, not saying that you, not threatening to expose financial information
Did any
to the
information
detail.
get exposed? Did any information get
You
exposed?
sent a letter saying
It was
you
a
were doing
completely
it.
contrived argument from
Was
word
it a
one.
completely
Completely
contrived letter? Was the letter purposely misleading to the General Assembly, or were you committing treason against the state? One of the two. Either one's bad. Lying or treason. Which one was it?
Mr. Chairman.
No, really, I want an answer. What was your intent when you sent the letter? Were you intending to publish information, as you said, in a letter, on your letterhead, signed with your signature, saying that you were posting information to a level that you knew would invite, that you had testified under oath, would invite cyber attacks so that our state's finances would be drained? You sent that letter. What was your intent when you sent that letter? Did you mean to carry out what you said you were going to do, or were you trying to mislead us to believing that you were going to do it?
Loftis did not give a direct answer to that question either. Now, the subcommittee is set to have another meeting this week, which won't involve Loftis, and it is now going to work up a draft report from this meeting and other ones. This report will likely be the guiding document on what the Senate and likely the House will operate from in terms of continuing to implement changes from that Alex Partners forensic audit and the future of the state treasurer. We will let you know anything new that comes out of it. Don't worry.
Okay, then.
Since we're talking money, let's talk about spending some money. Let's do the numbers here. You guys love that. I know you love when I say that. Now, we are officially less than a week away from the House floor debate over the $14.6 billion budget that was crafted and approved by the House Ways and Means Committee. This is always a sporty time at the State House, especially when debate kicks off next Monday. Yes, the budget debate starts on a Monday instead of a Tuesday, just to give lawmakers more time for debate and votes on amendments to the budget. A vote-a-rama, if you will. Not quite, but it's close. Now, I spoke with Ways and Means Committee Chairman Bruce Bannister on This Week in South Carolina and want to bring you part of that conversation on funding priorities, federal funding freezes, it's a fun one, and taxes. Take a listen.
It is my third one. This budget cycle is probably the closest and best we've worked with the governor's office and the Senate. We've really had a lot of communication back and forth between the different stakeholders about what's important and what the priorities should be. We take the idea that you make responsible investments in South Carolina seriously, and so that's what you'll see in the budget. Things like SROs, school resource officers, we're going to make sure. And the way it has been working is we believe we have them all covered, and there's new schools, and so we're continuing to fund school resource officers in every school.
A big priority of the governor's.
Big priority of the governor's. Same with teacher pay. We're going to hit the governor's goal of $50,000 starting salary for teachers by the time he leaves office, and we're on pace to do that. Another big investment this year. I think the starting salary will be $48,500, so we'll be within striking distance of that. And we've committed to the teachers and the governor that we're going to make that happen. The Senate's big on infrastructure, so we've got a pretty big investment in bridges, continuing to fund the DOT, and then corrections. We are continuing to try to keep the contraband out of the jail, so cell phones and the different things that they have to go look all the time to get out. We're trying to get those things out. So we made a big investment in cell phone interdiction. And then we did a study over the last couple of years for state employees, and there were some recommendations to get really some of our lowest paid state employees up to just a basic level that would be competitive with what they could make in the private sector. And so we're moving the pay bands and making an investment in our state employees to get them to that level. As well as a cost of living increase for some of the higher paid state employees. So kind of an investing in South Carolina. We also set aside some money for tax cuts. That continues to be a priority in the House. To say, hey, we're having these great budget years. We got $650 million in new recurring revenue. We've got $1.2 billion in one-time money that's available. And a large portion of the Republican caucus wants to see some of that go back to the taxpayers. It's where it came from. It's their money. And it's okay for us to reduce that burden on the everyday citizen. So what that's going to look like, right now, we've committed to go to 6%. We're at 6.2, we'll be at 6%.
For that income tax.
For the income tax, yes, sir. If it works, we're going to look at a kind of an overhaul of the way we collect income taxes. There's 44% of the people in South Carolina who do not pay any income tax to South Carolina. And we're looking at how to include them in the income tax world so that everybody pays something into the income tax. If we do that, we think we can get a really low rate, maybe under 4%, where that burden would be shared, but it would also it'd be a substantially less of a burden to the regular South Carolinians.
And then also bring in more money to the state as well, or keep it about equal?
Ideally, it would bring in $200 million less.
Okay.
And it would reduce the rate,
but it would even
to below
out.
4%.
Okay.
Yeah, it would just have a broader section of people paying.
So when we talk about this, and you talk about these strong revenues, I think the state economists, like you just mentioned, amped up how much money y'all can use to the tune of $1.9 billion with that one-time dollars and the recurring dollars. Do you have any concerns about how the economy is doing, their outlook? I mean, when you see what the BEA gave you all, I mean, that's pretty remarkable to see $1.9 billion extra, but do you have any caution when you see that money?
So we're in constant communication with the economists on the BEA and talking to them about what they're seeing and the trends. Everyone anticipates a slowdown, and we have asked them to be very conservative in how they authorize us to spend money, because we don't want to be in a position where they said, hey, you have $650 million new recurring dollars, and then we don't. We don't want to make any promises we can't keep or that we have to break when the economy goes down. So they have been very conservative thus far, which is one of the reasons we have a large one-time money available. The non-recurring dollars is basically money we didn't spend last year. So we didn't know we would have it, we didn't spend it, and now we have it because it's from last year carried forward. So when we look at that, we feel like that's a good cushion, and it makes us more confident that the BEA is being conservative and making good projections of where we'll be.
And Chairman, with less than 30 seconds, what do you make of these federal attempts to freeze funding coming down from the federal government? We're talking about DOT, we're talking about education. How concerned are you about these moves up there in Washington, and what are you hearing maybe from agency directors about this?
So South Carolina, while we have a very large federal budget coming here, we are also telling our agencies to get ready for that. Tell us what your plans are. Start looking at how you're going to manage it if the federal funds either stop coming or are reduced significantly, and I think we'll be ready for it if it happens.
You can watch that full interview with House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Bruce Bannister on youtube.com/South Carolina ETV. And a programming note, due to our spring fundraising drive, Twisk will be off the air for the next 2 weeks. But don't worry, Lede will be here. Lede is always here. Always. Always. And an important note on the way out, Governor Henry McMaster issued a state of emergency over the weekend to support the state's ongoing response to wildfires burning in the upstate and Grand Strand. In addition, there is an outdoor burning ban in effect until further notice, so stop burning stuff outside. It's too dry and windy out there. The state fire marshal reported ongoing response operations to more than 175 wildfires impacting 4,200 acres across the state, including in Horry, Spartanburg, Oconee, Union, and Pickens counties, primarily due to dry, windy conditions. So don't burn anything right now, please. Welcome to the wind down section. Our little break from the news. We're glad you're here. Joining me is A.T. Shire, a lead podcast producer.
Super producer, some might say.
Super producer.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello. I'm wearing a new one today.
Yes, another jersey.
The most controversial one of the pack, I would say.
Yikes. Oh,
okay?
jeez.
So we've spoken juju in the past, okay? And I don't believe in much juju, but what I do believe in is if I have a jersey, I want it to be an all-time greats jersey. I don't want to be an idiot
Get the wrong one.
wearing some schlub's jersey,
Yes.
right? And so 2 years ago, my dad just bought me this jersey. It's a Jalen Hurts jersey, okay? And I was nervous. He was doing well. We made the Super Bowl 2 years
Totally.
ago. But I was like, I don't want to be the kiss of death here. Like, I don't want it to ultimately turn out to be some guy who never got us all the way. But because of this Super Bowl win, I took the tags off of this one.
Can't return it now.
And I wore it in, okay? They've even changed this little logo here, so I couldn't return it anyway. It's visibly...
2 years, of course, yes.
Yes. So it's a very contentious buy, but it did work out in the end. And when they won, one of the first things I thought was now I can wear this jersey.
Now I'm allowed to support someone publicly because they have won. How many more jerseys are we going to experience? I know we're coming up on a month here of the celebration of
1
life.
month, 2 episodes a week. Yes, I have more.
Yeah,
I mean,
no doubt. Yes.
I can
It's
stop
wonderful.
if you
no, it's
want.
okay.
I can stop.
I don't want to ruin your celebration.
I
period.
have another Jalen Hurts jersey, okay, that I've bought since.
that you're allowed to wear now.
This is good now. It's a throwback jersey. So it's good.
Because you support him.
I have another Brian Dawkins. I have another McNabb. And I have a throwback Harold Carmichael.
We've already talked about them now, so we don't have to experience
That's
them.
true.
That's incredible.
We've worn all of the players.
Yes.
We have. So we can retire the bit.
No, I'm wondering, you haven't been wearing the Super Bowl ring.
The ring is very big and heavy. If Gavin is referring to my replica
programming
Super Bowl
with it.
ring, and whatever finger you put it on, it does render it non-useful anymore. It's too heavy. I don't know how Slash plays guitar with how many rings he has. Mostly rings on.
a
You
finger
know,
workout
like
for
it's
each
got to
of them.
be hitting the guitar and stuff. But yeah, I can't wear that ring around. It's
Well,
a
put it on a
presentation ring.
Put it on a necklace.
If I put it on a necklace, my neck would slam to the ground comically. Okay, You know, it's
Full weight.
the weight of the ring, like the One Ring. Okay, it would corrupt me eventually. I can't.
But
be
you
that
won't be getting
proud.
a second one.
I might get a second one. I texted
I need
someone.
another paperweight.
The person who got me the first one, I texted him right after we won. I said, we're going to have to order another ring. But we don't know what it looks like yet. It
Won't
hasn't,
matter.
it hasn't been
Yeah.
revealed. But I will
exciting.
get it. I will get it.
It is
Gavin.
cool to see because it brings it home.
Gavin
in some
loves a
respects.
chunky piece of jewelry. Big,
Big
chunky piece of jewelry. You know, big old stinker.
Oh, I've been big on the big glasses,
Yeah.
the big necklaces, everything oversized.
He's slowly
Oh, I have to
becoming
take it off when
70s
we-
Elton John.
We have to take it off when we tape because it'd be just constantly
Oh,
making
the sound.
noise.
The sound is so much.
Especially when I wear my
Your
bangles.
Your bracelets, yeah. But Gavin,
Do we have any calls?
we have no calls. Obvious. Any
had
seasoned
so many
listeners
good ones, though. We've had
knows.
so many good ones.
Gavin's addicted to the good ones, and they were great. I mean, I do love the stories
I
of
was
our
used to
listeners
that.
calling in and letting us know how much better they are than we are. But Gavin, I'm going to take this moment of call-less wind down to speak about half about the Eagles and then half about my other interest in life. And that is Top Chef.
Yes.
I've talked about this numerous times. No one wants to call in Top Chef. So I'm going to force the subject here.
Sure.
Where I've had this written down for a long time. And I'm going to talk about the last season of Top Chef with the new season starting in a few days. Last season had one of the Frenchest people I've ever seen in my life.
Bonjour.
He was like a caricature French chef, right? You would think his name is Pierre. Pierre Escargot, shout out, all that. But his name was Kevin. And it really let me down. And I was super bummed. And I was like, man, that guy's name should have been Pierre.
Gavin.
Yes, exactly. And then later on, I found out that there is a glut of 30-somethings in Europe, in France, and the UK, and Germany, all named Kevin because of
Stop it.
Home
Stop
Alone.
it.
Home Alone was so popular that
Spanned everything.
all these Europeans started naming their
Come on.
kids, and there were no Kevins before or since. And so now there's a massive stigma against people named Kevin.
Oh, I feel so bad.
Especially in Germany. If there is a German Kevin, they look down their nose at you and go, oh, you're too American. Too American. They hate it. And I thought that was it explained why my own displeasure of this guy named Kevin.
Oh, tragic.
But-
the Americanization there.
And
was a
when
big
I went back and
start.
thought about it, he was exactly the right age to have been named after the popularity of Home Alone. And it absolutely blew my mind.
Macaulay Culkin was a force, folks.
A tour de force.
So much so he's such a little crazy, instigator. I'm gonna name my son after him. Says some random European person.
Some
and
might say
some
Trump
random
became
European
president
country.
with that little cameo in Home Alone 2, Lost in New
Second
York.
one, yes.
Next presidency,
say.
calling it right now, Bird Lady. Wow. Bird Lady from Home Alone 2, okay? That's what's coming next. That's next.
Luckily, I've never been confused as a Kevin when I've been abroad. Luckily, I didn't even know this stigma existed because sometimes people hear Kevin when I say Gavin, and I know how it works.
I've never heard that, but yeah, I can see it happen.
Some people have different backgrounds, different things. So it's backgrounds, i.e., being from a different country, i.e., if I was in Europe at the time,
European ears.
they'd be like,
Kevin?
instead they think I'm European, which is
you ooze European.
Well, they're like it's always funny when before you speak they judge you. Of course,
Yes.
I mean we're not allowed.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were Serbian. I have not received that one before.
Interesting.
And you know me, I don't have a Euro haircut. I'm not keeping it that tight either. So I don't know.
You're
how that
tan.
is.
You're tan.
Could be a bit of that.
Show off your ankles.
Show the ankles for the kids. Oh,
Very
look at the
European.
ankles.
You're eating bread over there.
Bread.
You remember
We
when
had
we ate
bread.
That's an
Olive oil.
inside joke. If anyone understands
love it.
give us a
They've
call.
already-
Give us a call, folks. Okay.
Bread. You guys remember bread?
Oh, Brad.
Oh, the olive oil. So good.
Anyway, people, have a good week. Gavin, just say the outro, please.
Okay, well, give us a shout, guys. We want to hear from you. 803-563-7169. We love it. We love it. You can also leave us a message anywhere you get podcasts. Leave us a review. We love that. You can always stay up to date with the latest news on SCETV.org and SouthCarolinaPublicRadio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina.
I flipped those things up on the bottom of my keyboard, and they went fast.
Oh no, turn them down. What?
It's too late!